Your 40s are when you finally realize you've been living someone else's highlight reel while neglecting your own blooper reel. That carefully curated life you've been building to impress people who barely remember your name starts looking ridiculous. Here's what nobody warns you about hitting 40. You develop an almost supernatural ability to recognize what drains your energy and what doesn't. You can spot toxic positivity from across a crowded room and sense when someone's about to dump their problems on you without offering solutions. The best part? You finally stop performing for an audience that probably isn't even watching. You realize you've been waiting for someone else's approval to live your own life. The great permission slip you write yourself. This awakening leads to the most ridiculous realization of your 40s. You've been waiting for someone else to give you permission to live your own life. Like needing a hall pass to use your own bathroom. You spent decades performing for people who probably can't even remember your middle name, let alone care about your life choices. The whole thing becomes laughably absurd when you realize most of these people are too busy performing for their own imaginary audience to notice your performance anyway. Think about networking events where everyone pretends to care about synergy and leveraging core competencies, while secretly wondering if there's good cheese at the snack table. Your 30-year-old self would RSVP yes to everything, convinced that missing one mixer might derail your entire career trajectory. Research shows that individuals over 40 spend roughly 10% more time on self-care decisions than those in their 20s. And this shift becomes obvious when you consider how your younger self approached social obligations. That person who handed you their business card with the enthusiasm of a religious missionary? They threw it away the next morning, along with 17 others just like it. Your 40-year-old self recognizes these events for what they often are. Expensive ways to collect business cards you'll never use while eating mediocre appetizers and making small talk about quarterly projections. Then something beautiful happens in your 40s. "I'm washing my hair" becomes a legitimate and respected excuse. Not because you're actually washing your hair, but because everyone understands you're protecting your time from activities that don't deserve it. Your social calendar stops being a testament to your popularity and starts being a reflection of your priorities. The transformation from FOMO to JOMO becomes your new lifestyle brand. The joy of missing out reveals itself as far superior to the fear of missing out. You discover that most things you thought you were missing weren't worth experiencing in the first place. That industry conference you skipped? The keynote speaker recycled the same tired presentation from 3 years ago. The happy hour that conflicted with your gym time? Karen from accounting complained about her commute for 45 minutes while everyone else checked their phones. Saying no to others automatically means saying yes to yourself, like finally getting the TV remote in your own house after years of watching other people's programming choices. Your 30-year-old self said yes to everything because saying no felt like closing doors. Your 40-year-old self understands that saying yes to everything means saying yes to nothing meaningful. Every yes is a no to something else, and you finally have the wisdom to make that choice intentionally. This permission phase eliminates the exhausting energy drain of performing for an audience that's probably not even watching. You realize you've been putting on a show for people who were too busy putting on their own shows to notice yours. The amount of mental energy you wasted trying to impress people who weren't impressed by anything became obviously ridiculous. Like discovering you've been shouting into a room full of people wearing headphones. Your authentic choices finally create a life that actually fits you, instead of a life that looks good on social media. The difference between living for external validation and living for internal satisfaction becomes crystal clear. External validation requires constant performance and endless audience management. Internal satisfaction requires honesty about what you actually want and the courage to pursue it regardless of what other people think. The people whose approval you spent decades seeking weren't even living lives you admire when you stop to examine them closely. They're stressed about the same meaningless social obligations that stressed you. They're performing for their own imaginary audiences while judging your performance. The whole system becomes obviously circular and pointless when you step outside it and observe from a distance. Your 40s grant you the ultimate freedom, the right to disappoint people who don't really matter. This doesn't make you selfish or antisocial. It makes you strategic about where you invest your limited social energy. The committee you joined out of obligation becomes obviously absurd when you realize you joined it to impress people who also joined it out of obligation. Nobody actually wanted to be there, but everyone was afraid to admit it. The permission you've been waiting for only comes from you. No external authority figure will ever give you clearance to live authentically, because authentic living threatens the performance-based social systems that most people participate in unconsciously. Your authentic choices disrupt other people's performances by showing them an alternative they're afraid to consider. When you stop performing for an audience that doesn't matter, you free up enormous resources for what does. The energy you wasted on impression management becomes available for meaningful work, genuine relationships, and personal growth. Your social interactions become more honest and satisfying because you're not constantly calculating how to present yourself for maximum approval. The beautiful irony is that authentic living actually impresses the people worth impressing while disappointing the people whose opinions don't matter anyway. Quality people respect boundaries and authentic choices. Toxic people prefer performers they can manipulate and control. Your 40s teach you the difference between these two groups and grant you permission to optimize for quality over quantity. Your authentic choices align with your actual values instead of your performed values. The life you create starts feeling genuinely yours, instead of like a costume you wear to fit in with people you don't particularly like. You stop auditioning for roles in other people's life stories and start writing your own story based on what actually matters to you. The permission slip you write yourself in your 40s is the most important document you'll ever sign. It authorizes you to live according to your own standards instead of everyone else's expectations. It grants you the freedom to disappoint people who don't contribute to your happiness while protecting the relationships and activities that actually do. This isn't selfishness disguised as wisdom. This is wisdom disguised as permission to finally be yourself. But here's where this newfound freedom gets interesting. Once you start making choices based on what actually matters to you, you begin to notice something else entirely: the clock ticking in the background of every decision. Time scarcity, the ultimate life hack. This awareness transforms into the darkly comic realization that Mortality awareness is basically the world's most effective productivity app, and it's completely free. No subscription fees, no premium features, just the simple acknowledgement that you're not immortal, and suddenly every decision becomes crystal clear. Your 40s deliver this insight with the subtlety of a brick through a window, transforming abstract concepts about time management into visceral understanding about time scarcity. The mathematical reality hits you like a sledgehammer to the consciousness. If you live to 80, you have roughly 2,000 weekends left, according to basic life expectancy calculations. 2,000. That number makes every Saturday more precious than your grandmother's china, and suddenly spending your weekend at your cousin's gender reveal party for their third child seems like a questionable investment strategy. Each weekend represents 0.05% of your remaining weekend allocation, which makes that quarterly team-building retreat feel like lighting money on fire while standing in the rain. This math makes that energy vampire friend seem like a terrible investment decision. You know, the one who calls every Sunday to complain about the same problems they refuse to solve while somehow making everything about themselves. spending 4 hours listening to their circular reasoning about why they can't leave their toxic job becomes equivalent to spending your retirement fund on lottery tickets. The return on investment is negative, the opportunity cost is enormous, and you finally have the mathematical framework to justify protecting your time from people who waste it professionally. The absurdity of joining committees out of obligation becomes glaringly obvious when you realize you could be doing literally anything else with those Tuesday evenings, including watching paint dry, which would at least result in a freshly painted room instead of another meeting about forming a subcommittee to discuss the formation of a task force. Your 30-year-old self joined these committees thinking they mattered for professional advancement. Your 40-year-old self recognizes them as elaborate time-wasting exercises disguised as civic engagement. Death awareness doesn't make you morbid, it makes you selective. Like finally developing good taste in everything from friendships to television shows to how you spend your Thursday nights. Mortality awareness functions as the ultimate quality filter, separating activities that contribute to your life from activities that simply consume your life. You develop discriminating taste about everything because you finally understand that accepting mediocrity means choosing to waste your finite existence on subpar experiences. Your mindless scrolling habits become painfully obvious when measured against those 2,000 remaining weekends. Every hour spent reading social media complaints about parking lot etiquette is an hour that could contribute to something meaningful. The opportunity cost of digital drift becomes crystal clear when you multiply those lost minutes by the days remaining in your life. Time that could be spent learning to juggle, calling your mom, reading that book that's been sitting on your nightstand for 6 months, or even just sitting quietly, without digital stimulation. Your 20-year-old self had time to waste and wasted it generously. Hours spent in parking lots having deep conversations about nothing, entire evenings devoted to reality television marathons, weekends lost to hangovers that seemed like necessary social investments. Time felt infinite because death felt theoretical. Your 40-year-old self treats time like premium gasoline, measuring every expenditure against the finite supply remaining in your tank. Understanding your time limits eliminates decision paralysis completely. Research on terror management theory shows that mortality awareness actually improves focus and decision-making by clarifying what matters most. When you know you don't have infinite amounts of anything, every choice becomes clearer because the stakes become real. Should you spend your evening reorganizing your closet or calling that friend who moved across the country? The answer becomes obvious when you calculate the relative value of each activity against your remaining time allocation. The beautiful transformation happens when you realize that waiting for special occasions to use your best dishes is actually a form of temporal self-sabotage. You stop saving your good china for holidays and start using it for Tuesday dinner because Tuesday is special enough. The realization that every ordinary moment is actually extraordinary when viewed against the backdrop of mortality changes how you approach daily experiences. Your regular weeknight dinner becomes worth the good plates because you finally understand that ordinary moments are the only moments you actually have. This shift from saving experiences for later to experiencing them now becomes revolutionary. You wear your favorite dress to the grocery store, drink the expensive wine on Wednesday, use the fancy soap instead of saving it for guests. The concept of saving pleasures for special occasions reveals itself as a form of temporal hoarding that assumes you'll have unlimited opportunities to enjoy things later. Your 40s teach you that later is not guaranteed, but right now is happening whether you participate fully or not. The urgency that comes with mortality awareness isn't panic, it's precision. You become surgical about where you invest your attention, ruthless about protecting your time from activities that don't deserve it, and generous with experiences that actually matter. Time scarcity doesn't make you rushed, it makes you intentional. Every choice carries weight, because you finally understand that choosing one thing always means not choosing everything else. This newfound precision extends beyond time management into every aspect of your life, including how you spend your money. The same clarity that helps you protect your weekends also helps you recognize the difference between what you actually need and what you think you're supposed to want. The enough principle, or why you don't want that sports car. Your financial decisions suddenly become governed by a revolutionary concept that emerges in your 40s. The enough principle. The hilarious truth about midlife crises is that the real crisis isn't buying a sports car. It's realizing you don't actually want one, especially after calculating the insurance costs and wondering why you need 400 horsepower to go 15 miles per hour in traffic. Your 40-year-old brain finally develops the ability to do basic math on major purchases, revealing that most impressive purchases are expensive ways to complicate your life while emptying your bank account. The enough principle challenges everything society taught you about success. Our culture treats more like a religion and bigger like a moral imperative, creating a social environment where satisfaction feels like giving up and contentment looks like failure. The advertising industry spends billions convincing you that happiness lives just one purchase away, that your current life is insufficient until you upgrade to the premium version. Your 40s grant you immunity to this psychological manipulation by teaching you the difference between marketing messages and actual human needs. Your 40s become financially revolutionary when you finally understand the difference between wanting something and needing something, a distinction that somehow escaped you for decades despite its obvious importance. Your 30-year-old self wanted the expensive handbag because it looked impressive in meetings. Your 40-year-old self recognizes that the handbag's primary function is carrying stuff, not broadcasting your financial status to colleagues who are too busy checking their phones to notice your accessories. This distinction transforms every purchase decision from emotional impulse to strategic choice. The comedy reaches peak absurdity when you look at house renovations and wonder if granite countertops actually make coffee taste better. Those magazine-worthy kitchen upgrades promise to transform your cooking experience and increase your home's value. But your 40-year-old palate knows that great coffee comes from good beans and proper brewing technique, not expensive stone surfaces. The renovation industry profits from the illusion that happiness can be installed by contractors and financed through home equity loans. Your 30-year-old self would have financed the renovation to keep up with neighbors you don't even like, driven by social pressure to maintain appearances and the fear of having the least impressive kitchen on the block. Your 40-year-old self asks the dangerous question that the renovation industry hopes you never consider. Will this make me happier, or just make my house look like a magazine? The answer usually reveals that you're paying premium prices to impress people whose opinions don't matter, while creating debt that limits your future options. The absurd realization hits you that experiences appreciate while possessions depreciate. Research on midlife consumer behavior shows that people over 40 increasingly prioritize experiences over material goods, recognizing that experiences create lasting value, while possessions lose their appeal over time. That $20,000 kitchen upgrade becomes a terrible investment compared to the $20,000 European vacation that creates stories you'll tell for decades. Your granite countertops won't entertain guests at dinner parties, but your adventures in Italian cooking classes will. The kitchen upgrade loses value the moment contractors finish installing it, but memories from meaningful experiences compound over time, becoming more valuable as years pass, and details become family legends. The enough principle eliminates lifestyle inflation that traps you in jobs you hate to pay for stuff you don't need to impress people you don't like. This vicious cycle keeps millions of people imprisoned in careers that drain their souls, while their paychecks disappear into mortgage payments for houses too big for their actual needs. Breaking free from lifestyle inflation requires recognizing that every upgrade in living standards demands a corresponding increase in income, creating golden handcuffs that prevent career changes and limit life choices. The liberating math becomes crystal clear. Less stuff equals more options. Your closet doesn't need to look like a department store. Your garage doesn't need to house recreational vehicles you use twice per year. And your basement doesn't need to function as a museum of expensive hobbies you abandoned after 6 months. Each possession demands attention, maintenance, storage space, and replacement costs that add up to significant ongoing expenses. Reducing your possessions reduces your overhead, freeing up resources for experiences and opportunities that actually matter. Knowing what's sufficient lets you optimize for freedom instead of accumulation, recognizing that freedom is the ultimate luxury item. Freedom to change careers without worrying about maintaining expensive lifestyles. Freedom to take risks without calculating how they'll affect your ability to make car payments. Freedom to choose work based on meaning rather than salary requirements. This optimization requires understanding that most possessions are actually expensive commitments disguised as convenient purchases. The peaceful realization emerges that enough isn't about settling for less. It's about recognizing abundance that was hiding under all that stuff you thought you needed. Your 40s teach you that abundance isn't about having more things, it's about having fewer things that you actually value and use. The relief of stopping the endless acquisition cycle creates space for appreciating what you already have, instead of constantly yearning for what you don't have. Understanding enough transforms your relationship with money, from earning to spend to earning to choose. When you know what's sufficient for your happiness, extra income becomes freedom, rather than an excuse to upgrade your lifestyle. This distinction between having money and spending money creates options that most people never experience because they automatically convert every raise into higher living expenses. The enough principle reveals that most of what you thought you needed was actually what other people convinced you to want. Your 40s grant you the clarity to distinguish between genuine needs and manufactured desires, between authentic preferences and social programming. This wisdom doesn't make you cheap or minimalist, it makes you intentional about where you invest your resources. You spend freely on things that matter while refusing to waste money on things that don't, creating a life that reflects your actual values rather than your aspirational image. This financial clarity extends beyond spending decisions into how you manage another precious resource that becomes increasingly finite with age: your energy. Energy management, your body's battery indicator. Your body operates exactly like your phone's battery indicator, and your 40s finally teach you which applications drain it fastest. That colleague who stops by your desk every morning to recap their weekend drama? Battery vampire. Your 40s grant you the wisdom to identify these human applications that consume your processing power while providing zero value in return. Your body starts keeping score like a very judgmental accountant, tracking every late night and questionable food choice with mathematical precision. That pizza at 11 p.m. seemed like a reasonable decision until your digestive system presents you with an itemized bill the next morning. The 2 glasses of wine that used to enhance your evening now require a 3-day recovery period and a formal apology to your liver. Your 40-year-old body maintains detailed records of every physiological transgression, complete with interest charges and compound consequences that your 30-year-old body would have written off as minor expenses. The comedy reaches peak absurdity when you finally start working with your biology instead of against it. Like discovering you've been trying to swim upstream for decades, while wondering why you're exhausted all the time. Your body has been sending you detailed memos about your optimal operating conditions since you were 25, but you kept filing them under ignore until further notice, while chugging coffee to override your natural energy patterns. Your 40s force you to read the user manual for your own operating system. Studies show that peak focus windows vary significantly by chronotype, yet most people schedule their days according to arbitrary social conventions rather than their biological reality. Your 40s grant you permission to honor your natural rhythms instead of fighting them, which represents revolutionary thinking in a world obsessed with universal productivity routines. The productivity industrial complex wants you to believe that successful people all wake up at dawn to meditate, exercise, and plan their day while drinking bulletproof coffee. This ignores the basic biological reality that humans have different optimal performance windows. Your 40s teach you that working with your energy patterns produces better results than forcing yourself into someone else's schedule. The strategic brilliance of guarding your golden hours for important work instead of wasting them on administrative calls that could have been emails becomes crystal clear. Your peak mental performance occurs during predictable windows, yet most people squander these precious hours on low-value activities like checking email, attending status meetings, or returning non-urgent phone calls. Your 40s develop the wisdom to protect your cognitive prime time, like a bouncer protecting a VIP section. Important work gets access during peak hours, while mundane tasks wait for your natural energy valleys. Batching mundane tasks during your natural energy valleys means you finish your best work in 2 focused hours instead of struggling through 8 distracted ones. Your brain operates on predictable cycles of high performance and recovery periods, but most people ignore these patterns while wondering why they feel scattered and inefficient. Administrative tasks, email responses, and routine maintenance work can happen during your lower energy periods without compromising your ability to do meaningful work. This strategic scheduling maximizes your productive output while minimizing the exhaustion that comes from fighting your natural rhythms. The hilarious realization emerges that productivity isn't about doing more, it's about doing less of the wrong things at the wrong times. The productivity obsession focuses on cramming more activities into each day rather than optimizing when you do specific types of work. Your 40s teach you that doing creative work during your creative peak hours produces better results than spending twice as long on the same work during your energy valleys. Quality output depends more on timing than on total hours invested. Energy management eliminates the exhaustion cycle that comes from fighting your own operating system. Most people experience chronic fatigue not because they're working too hard, but because they're working against their natural energy patterns, like running your computer's graphics card at maximum capacity while trying to perform routine maintenance tasks. Your system becomes overloaded and inefficient when you ignore its optimal operating parameters. Working with your energy instead of against it reduces the constant strain that leads to burnout. The transformation happens when you recognize that your energy patterns are data, not character flaws. Your 40s grant you permission to optimize your schedule around your actual energy patterns, rather than fighting them to fit arbitrary social expectations. Understanding your personal energy management system requires honest observation rather than wishful thinking. Most people know when they feel most alert, creative, and focused, but they ignore this information in favor of conventional schedules that don't match their biology. The sustainable approach to productivity emerges when you stop treating your energy like an unlimited resource and start treating it like the finite, valuable commodity it actually is. Your 40s teach you that energy management isn't about finding more energy, it's about using your existing energy more strategically. This shift from pushing harder to working smarter creates sustainable productivity patterns that don't require constant willpower or caffeine supplementation. When you work with your energy instead of against it, productivity becomes sustainable rather than a daily battle with your own biology. Your 40s grant you the wisdom to treat your energy as strategically as you treat your money, recognizing that both are finite resources that deserve intentional management. This awareness creates the foundation for making strategic decisions about how you spend your most precious resources. The art of strategic no, your new superpower. This refusal skill transforms into your most powerful tool, the art of strategic no. Your 40s grant you the ability to decline invitations, requests, and opportunities with surgical precision, protecting your time and energy like a skilled surgeon protecting vital organs during a delicate procedure. While everyone else optimizes their morning routine with meditation apps and bulletproof coffee, you're optimizing your no routine, a skill that should be taught in schools alongside basic math and reading comprehension. Your 40s superpower isn't saying yes to more opportunities, it's saying no to the wrong ones, with the precision of a Swiss watchmaker. Every request that crosses your desk gets evaluated against your actual priorities, rather than your fear of missing out or disappointing someone. That volunteer position coordinating the office holiday party? Your 30-year-old self would have accepted it, thinking it demonstrated team spirit. Your 40-year-old self recognizes it as 20 hours of unpaid event planning that will stress you out while adding zero value to your life or career. A simple, "I'm honored you thought of me, but I can't commit the time this deserves," becomes your diplomatic weapon of mass protection. The comedy of your newfound rejection skills reaches peak absurdity when you develop the ability to say no without extensive justification. No elaborate backstories about sick relatives, no fake emergencies involving plumbing disasters, just a simple "that doesn't work for me," delivered with the confidence of someone who finally understands that their time belongs to them. Your younger self would have crafted detailed explanations for why you couldn't attend every social obligation, as if declining required a legal defense. Your 40-year-old self knows that good people accept your no without demanding a detailed explanation. The people who matter respect your boundaries, while the people who don't respect your boundaries conveniently identify themselves for easy removal from your life. This natural sorting system saves you years of trying to figure out who deserves your time and attention. Quality people understand that everyone has limits and competing priorities. Toxic people respond to your boundaries with guilt trips, manipulation, or demands for justification. Your 40s teach you to view these reactions as valuable information, rather than problems to solve. The mathematical reality becomes crystal clear that every yes is a no to something else. Remember those 2,000 weekends you have left? Every commitment competes with every other commitment for those precious slots. Saying yes to organizing the neighborhood block party means saying no to your Saturday morning bike ride, your afternoon reading time, and your evening with family. The opportunity cost of every commitment becomes visible when you stop treating your time like an unlimited resource and start treating it like the finite currency it actually is. Strategic brilliance emerges when you start asking, will this move me toward my actual goals, or just make me look busy, before committing to anything. Most requests fail this simple test spectacularly. The committee meeting to discuss forming a task force about improving workplace communication will consume 3 hours of your week while producing 0 measurable improvements to anything. Your 40s grant you the wisdom to distinguish between activities that create value and activities that create the appearance of productivity. Strategic refusal protects your most valuable resources for your highest priorities, like being your own personal bodyguard against time thieves and energy vampires. Every request gets screened through your security system before reaching your calendar. Does this align with your values? Does it move you toward your goals? Does it energize you or drain you? Will you be glad you did this 6 months from now? Most requests fail this screening process, which is exactly why the screening process exists. The transformation happens when you realize that saying no to everything good creates space for everything great, a concept that would have terrified your younger self. Your 30-year-old self operated from scarcity thinking, believing that every opportunity might be your last chance at success, happiness, or social connection. Your 40-year-old self operates from abundance thinking, understanding that better opportunities emerge when you stop filling your calendar with mediocre commitments. The skill of strategic no extends beyond declining invitations to declining entire categories of commitments that don't serve you. You stop volunteering for projects that will consume your weekends, stop attending events that make you feel drained, stop maintaining relationships that exist only through your effort. This isn't selfishness, it's resource management. Your time and energy are finite resources that deserve strategic allocation. Boundaries aren't walls, they're quality control systems that keep your life from becoming a chaotic mess of other people's priorities. Your 40s teach you to operate a sophisticated filtering system that protects your time for activities and relationships that actually matter to you. The people who respect your boundaries become your inner circle because they understand that healthy relationships require mutual respect for each other's limits. Your strategic no skills create a life that reflects your actual priorities rather than your fear of disappointing others. When you stop saying yes to everything out of obligation or social pressure, your calendar starts reflecting your values. The activities that remain are activities you chose intentionally, rather than activities you accepted by default. This alignment between your commitments and your priorities creates the foundation for making strategic decisions about another finite resource that demands equally careful management. Peak earning strategy. Making money make sense. That resource is money, and your 40s represent financial prime time, not just because you're earning more, but because you finally understand the difference between making money and keeping money. This distinction separates people who build wealth from people who just look wealthy. Research shows that household incomes typically peak in the late 40s to early 50s, but paradoxically, saving rates often drop during this period, as lifestyle inflation consumes increased earnings. Your younger self focused on increasing income without understanding that income without wisdom just creates expensive lifestyle inflation. The comedy of income without wisdom plays out when people upgrade their car payments every time they get a raise. Your neighbor gets promoted and immediately starts shopping for a luxury SUV, while you're living on your old salary and investing the difference like a financial ninja, building wealth while they're building monthly obligations. They look more successful in their driveway, but you're actually becoming more successful in your investment accounts. Your 40s income has superpowers that your 20s income could only dream of: compound interest, career capital, and the magical ability to resist buying things you don't need. Compound interest becomes your secret weapon when you finally have both the income to invest and the wisdom to let time work in your favor. Your 25-year-old self spent raises on immediate gratification because delayed gratification felt like punishment. Your 40-year-old self understands that delayed gratification is actually advanced gratification because compound interest turns today's sacrifice into tomorrow's freedom. Career capital transforms your earning potential beyond simple salary increases. Your decades of experience, professional relationships, and industry knowledge become monetizable assets that 25-year-olds can't compete with, regardless of their energy levels or willingness to work weekends. Companies pay premium rates for expertise that prevents expensive mistakes, and your 40s are when you finally have enough expertise to command those premium rates. Your knowledge becomes currency in ways that your younger self couldn't access. The strategic brilliance of treating raises like found money that goes straight to your future self, instead of your current shopping cart, becomes the foundation of peak earning strategy. When you get a $10,000 raise, your lifestyle stays exactly the same, while your investment account gets $10,000 richer. This approach requires viewing money as a tool for buying freedom, rather than a ticket to upgrade your lifestyle. Your 30-year-old self would have immediately calculated what monthly payment that raise could support. Your 40-year-old self calculates what early retirement optionality that raise could create. The goal isn't to live like you make more money, it's to save like you understand what money actually buys, which is freedom, not stuff. Freedom to leave jobs that drain your soul, freedom to take calculated risks, freedom to say no to work that doesn't align with your values. Money buys options, and options buy peace of mind. Your 40s teach you that looking wealthy and being wealthy are completely different financial strategies with completely different outcomes. Peak earning strategy isn't about what you can afford, it's about what you choose to afford. This distinction separates the financially free from the financially fancy. Just because you can afford the premium cable package doesn't mean you should pay for channels you don't watch. Just because you can afford the expensive restaurant doesn't mean you should eat there, instead of investing that money in your future self. Your 40s develop the wisdom to ask whether each purchase moves you toward financial freedom or just makes you look more successful. That $20,000 raise can either become a fancier lifestyle or early retirement optionality, and these choices compound into completely different life trajectories. The fancier lifestyle option upgrades your house, your car, your vacations, and your monthly obligations. The early retirement optionality option upgrades your investment portfolio, your financial security, and your future choices. One choice compounds into freedom, the other into golden handcuffs that require you to maintain higher income levels to support higher expenses. Understanding opportunity cost transforms every purchase decision into a strategic choice between present pleasure and future options. That $500 dinner might taste amazing, but it also represents $500 that won't compound into retirement security. Your 40s don't make you cheap, they make you strategic about money allocation. You spend freely on things that matter while refusing to waste money on things that don't create lasting value. This isn't deprivation, it's prioritization. The mathematical reality becomes crystal clear that lifestyle inflation traps you in jobs you hate to pay for stuff you don't need. Every upgrade in your living standard requires a corresponding commitment to maintain higher income levels. The bigger house demands higher mortgage payments, the luxury car requires premium insurance, the private school creates tuition obligations. Each lifestyle upgrade reduces your financial flexibility and increases your dependence on steady income streams. Your 40s grant you the wisdom to optimize for freedom instead of accumulation. Freedom means having enough money saved that you can afford to be selective about work opportunities. Freedom means not needing to accept every project or promotion because your expenses are manageable. Freedom means having options when unexpected opportunities arise because you're not trapped by financial obligations that require constant income. The strategic approach to peak earning focuses on increasing the gap between income and expenses, rather than just increasing income. Your 40s teach you that a person earning $80,000 and spending $60,000 has more financial freedom than a person earning $150,000 and spending $140,000. The first person has $20,000 to invest annually, while the second person has $10,000 despite earning almost twice as much. Peak earning strategy optimizes for savings rate, not just gross income. Your 40s financial decisions create the foundation for every choice you'll make in your 50s and beyond. This decade determines whether you'll have options or obligations, whether you'll be financially free or financially trapped, whether you'll work because you want to or because you have to. The compound effect of your 40s financial choices becomes the difference between comfortable retirement and working until you physically can't anymore. Strategic earning and spending in your 40s creates wealth that provides security, options, and peace of mind. Your younger self chased income to fund lifestyle upgrades. Your 40-year-old self chases income to fund future freedom. This shift from consumption-focused to accumulation-focused financial strategy becomes the foundation for authentic living, because financial security eliminates the fear that keeps people trapped in jobs and situations that don't serve them. The peak earning strategy of your 40s isn't about making more money, it's about making money work more strategically for your long-term goals, rather than your short-term desires. But money alone can't buy you the most valuable asset you'll need for those future years: your health. And your 40s body starts sending you increasingly urgent reminders about this investment opportunity. Health as future investment. Premium fuel required. The sobering yet hilarious realization hits you like a maintenance reminder you've been ignoring. Your 40s body is like a high-performance car that needs premium fuel and regular maintenance. Except you can't trade it in for a newer model when things start making weird noises. Your knees start providing weather forecasts, and your digestive system sends detailed reports about every questionable food decision you made 3 hours ago. Unlike your actual car, you can't simply lease a replacement when your current model starts requiring more attention and higher-grade fuel to operate properly. Every health choice becomes a deposit in your future mobility account, and your 40s force you to confront the mathematical reality that withdrawals from this account start accelerating whether you're making deposits or not. That protein at every meal isn't vanity or some fitness influencer's marketing scheme. It's preventing the muscle loss that research shows accelerates metabolic decline in midlife. Your body begins consuming your muscle mass for breakfast if you don't provide adequate protein, turning your metabolism into a less efficient machine that burns fewer calories while storing more fat in places you didn't know fat could live. The comedy reaches peak absurdity when you finally understand that strength training isn't about looking good in photos or impressing anyone at the gym. It's bone density insurance for your 70s because nobody wants to break a hip reaching for cereal or fracture a wrist trying to catch themselves from a minor stumble. Your bones are literally banking calcium and minerals right now, and if you don't make regular deposits through weight-bearing exercise, future you will be shopping for medical equipment instead of vacation destinations. The Instagram-worthy gym selfie becomes less important than the invisible structural improvements happening inside your skeleton. Sleep transforms from something you do when you're tired to active cognitive decline prevention. Your 30-year-old brain could recover from sleep deprivation like a resilient smartphone battery that bounced back to full capacity overnight. Your 40-year-old brain treats sleep debt like compound interest, accumulating cognitive damage that affects your memory, decision-making, and emotional regulation for days after a single late night. That extra hour of screen time costs more than entertainment when you calculate the cognitive performance penalty. Your 40s health habits determine whether your 70s will be active or assisted, a choice that makes every workout feel like a time machine investment. The difference between hiking mountains and needing assistance with grocery shopping often depends on the choices you make during this decade. Your future self is already living in a body that's being constructed by your current decisions about exercise, nutrition, and sleep. Every skipped workout is a vote for a more limited future, while every completed workout is a vote for maintaining independence and mobility decades from now. The strategic decision between drive-through convenience and 20 minutes of meal prep multiplied by 365 days equals either sustained energy or metabolic dysfunction. Your exhausted brain wants convenience because it's operating on decision fatigue and blood sugar fluctuations. Your strategic brain recognizes that those 20 minutes now save hours of medical appointments later, not to mention the energy crashes that make every afternoon feel like swimming through molasses. Fast food isn't just expensive financially, it's expensive metabolically, creating inflammation, blood sugar instability, and energy crashes that compound over time. The meal prep math becomes crystal clear when you realize that spending 2 hours on Sunday preparing healthy meals for the week costs less than one doctor's visit copay. Your 40s grant you the wisdom to understand that convenience food is actually inconvenient when you factor in the energy crashes, digestive issues, and long-term health consequences. The drive-thru saves 15 minutes while costing you hours of optimal energy and cognitive function. This isn't about perfection or complicated meal plans. It's about recognizing that your body requires premium fuel to operate at premium levels. The realization hits you that investing in health during your peak earning years prevents it from becoming your biggest expense later. Like paying for insurance you hope you'll never need, except this insurance policy requires daily premium payments in the form of exercise, sleep, and nutrition. Your 40s represent the decade when you have both the income to invest in quality food and fitness programs and the wisdom to understand why these investments matter more than any financial portfolio. Quality of life insurance through intentional habits beats any financial investment you could make because money can't buy you a new body. You can purchase the best medical care available, but you can't purchase new joints, a new cardiovascular system, or a new brain. The compound interest of good health habits started in your 40s pays dividends that no stock market return can match. Your energy levels, cognitive function, and physical capabilities in your 60s and 70s depend more on your daily habits than on your genetic lottery ticket. The beauty of health investment is that it pays immediate dividends while building long-term wealth. Better sleep improves your decision-making today while preventing cognitive decline tomorrow. Regular exercise increases your energy now while building bone density for later. Quality nutrition stabilizes your mood and energy in the present while reducing inflammation and disease risk in the future. Unlike financial investments that require you to wait years for returns, health investments start paying dividends within days or weeks. Your 40s body responds to consistent effort with surprising resilience and improvement. The same body that feels stiff and tired after years of neglect can regain strength, flexibility, and energy with remarkably little consistent effort. Future you is worth the current effort, and 70-year-old you is already grateful for the choices 40-year-old you makes today. Your 40s represent the last decade when prevention is easier than treatment, when building health is more effective than managing disease, and when small daily choices create massive long-term outcomes. This same strategic approach to protecting your physical energy naturally extends to protecting your social energy, because your 40s teach you that not all relationships deserve the same level of investment. Relationship intentionality, quality over quantity. Your social circle becomes the laboratory where you test this strategic approach to resource allocation. The hilarious realization hits you somewhere between your third high school reunion and your fourth friend's divorce. You spent your 20s collecting friends like Pokemon cards, then your 40s wondering why you need 847 Facebook friends when you only actually like about 5 of them. Your younger self treated friendship like a numbers game, convinced that social success meant having enough contacts to fill multiple birthday party venues. Your 40-year-old self recognizes that most of those people wouldn't notice if you disappeared from social media for 6 months. And honestly, you wouldn't notice if they did either. Quality over quantity isn't just minimalism for your social circle. It's relationship mathematics that finally makes sense. Energy is finite, attention is precious, and emotional bandwidth operates on a strict budget that doesn't expand just because you want more friends. Why waste your limited social resources on people who drain your battery when you could invest them in relationships that actually charge you up? Your 40s grant you permission to run the numbers on your relationships like a financial advisor analyzing your investment portfolio. Except instead of calculating returns on investment, you're calculating returns on emotional energy. The comedy reaches peak absurdity when you finally get permission to let relationships fade based on mutual value, rather than maintaining them out of historical obligation. Research on selective social ties in midlife shows that adults naturally prioritize relationships that provide emotional support and mutual benefit over those maintained through obligation or proximity. That friend from college who only contacts you when they need something becomes obviously draining when measured against your finite social energy. Your 30-year-old self would have maintained that relationship because of shared history and the fear of seeming cold. Your 40-year-old self recognizes that historical obligation is a terrible reason to maintain current relationships. Your 40-year-old brain runs this calculation automatically and chooses the energizing colleague over the chronic complainer every time. This isn't personal, it's practical energy management. Your social battery is precious, and spending it on people who consistently drain your energy is like using premium gasoline to power a lawnmower that doesn't even start properly. The friend who leaves you feeling exhausted after every conversation is competing for your attention with the colleague who energizes every interaction and makes you laugh while challenging your thinking. Relationship intentionality isn't about being cold or calculating, it's about being honest that your limited social energy deserves strategic allocation toward people who genuinely enhance your life. Your 40s develop the wisdom to recognize that maintaining relationships out of guilt or obligation benefits nobody. The friend who drains your energy doesn't get your best self, and you don't get the restorative social experience that quality relationships provide. This honesty creates space for relationships that actually function instead of relationships that just exist on your contact list. The strategic choice becomes crystal clear when you compare plans with the friend who leaves you feeling drained versus the one who makes you laugh and think. Your social battery is precious, and every social interaction either charges it or depletes it. Your 40s grant you permission to prioritize the relationships that energize you while politely declining the ones that exhaust you. This isn't about being perfect friends yourself, it's about recognizing that some personality combinations create energy while others consume it, and you're finally old enough to choose energy-creating relationships. Your 40s function like being your own social media algorithm, except instead of showing you content based on your browsing history, you're curating relationships based on their actual impact on your well-being. The algorithm prioritizes energizing friendships while gradually reducing exposure to draining ones. You stop accepting every social invitation and start accepting invitations that align with your values and energy levels. This curation process happens naturally when you stop maintaining relationships out of obligation and start maintaining them out of genuine enjoyment. Intentional relationships eliminate social exhaustion and create supportive networks that actually function when you need them, instead of just existing as names in your phone. Your 40s teach you the difference between having many acquaintances and having reliable friends. The person who shows up when you need help matters more than the person who shows up for your birthday party. Quality relationships provide emotional support, practical assistance, and genuine companionship when life gets complicated. Quantity relationships provide birthday wishes on Facebook and awkward small talk at social gatherings. The revelation becomes clear that better friends mean better problems and better solutions. When you surround yourself with people who elevate your thinking instead of lowering your mood, your conversations become more interesting, your challenges become more manageable, and your solutions become more creative. Quality friends help you solve problems instead of just complaining about them. They offer perspectives that expand your thinking instead of reinforcing your existing biases. They support your growth instead of enabling your stagnation. Curating your social circle is like curating your living space, where everything should either be useful, beautiful, or bring you joy. Relationships that don't meet these criteria deserve the same treatment as possessions that clutter your home without adding value. Your 40s grant you permission to declutter your social life just as intentionally as you declutter your physical space. The friends who remain after this curation process become your inner circle, providing the social support and meaningful connection that make life richer instead of more complicated. Quality relationships create a foundation for authentic living because they provide the emotional support necessary for taking risks, making changes, and pursuing goals that matter to you. When your social circle consists of people who genuinely care about your well-being, you can be honest about your struggles and celebrate your successes without fear of judgment or competition. This foundation of genuine relationships becomes the platform from which you can finally leverage the wisdom premium, experience as currency. That accumulated knowledge represents your most valuable asset, experience transformed into intellectual property. Your 40s are when experience stops being embarrassing history and starts being valuable currency that younger professionals can't replicate at any price. All those career disasters, relationship failures, and questionable life choices that once felt like personal humiliation transform into professional leverage that money can't buy. Your younger self saw mistakes as evidence of incompetence. Your 40-year-old self recognizes them as expensive education that creates competitive advantages in everything from hiring decisions to investment strategies. Those decades of failures and learning aren't just personal growth therapy sessions, they're professional leverage that 25-year-olds can't purchase through any amount of student loan debt. Research shows that midlife expertise commands premium rates in the knowledge economy because accumulated experience becomes monetizable wisdom that can't be taught in classrooms. Your experience portfolio contains case studies that business schools attempt to simulate through theoretical scenarios, but you lived through the actual consequences while they read sanitized versions in textbooks. The comedy reaches peak absurdity when you realize you're basically a walking case study with pattern recognition across multiple economic cycles, relationship disasters, and life transitions. You've watched the same workplace dramas play out with different actors, observed how the same financial mistakes repeat across generations, and seen identical relationship patterns destroy marriages with mathematical predictability. Your brain has developed sophisticated prediction algorithms based on actual data rather than theoretical models. You can spot a toxic manager from their first team meeting because you've seen this movie 17 times with different casts. Companies pay consultants thousands of dollars for insights you've lived through, while younger colleagues need mentorship you can provide like a wisdom vending machine. That expensive consultant explaining how to navigate office politics during organizational restructuring is describing situations you've survived multiple times. The leadership coach teaching conflict resolution strategies is packaging techniques you developed through trial and error over 2 decades. Your experience has become their business model, except they're charging premium rates for knowledge you acquired through unpaid real-world education. Your knowledge isn't just personal development material, it's professional currency in an economy that rewards experience when it's packaged as solutions. The ability to predict which projects will fail based on early warning signs becomes valuable consultation. Your understanding of which personality combinations create productive teams versus destructive conflicts becomes hiring strategy. Your recognition of financial patterns that lead to business failure becomes risk assessment expertise. The knowledge you gained through painful experience becomes other people's shortcuts to success. The strategic value becomes crystal clear when you spend 20 minutes helping a colleague avoid a mistake that took you years to learn from. Your ability to recognize the early signs of scope creep, budget overruns, or team dysfunction saves companies thousands in wasted resources. The project that would have failed after 6 months of expensive effort gets redirected after your 15-minute observation. Your pattern recognition prevents disasters that would have cost more than most people's annual salaries. Your pattern recognition and ability to see similar situations and predict outcomes has become monetizable expertise that functions like a professional crystal ball. You're their shortcut to success because you've already seen how similar stories end. The startup founder who reminds you of 3 previous entrepreneurs who failed in identical ways gets different advice than the one whose approach matches successful patterns from your experience. Your predictions aren't psychic abilities, they're statistical analysis based on extensive, real-world data collection. The Wisdom Premium transforms your career trajectory from climbing ladders to building bridges, where your value shifts from what you can do to what you can prevent. Your 30-year-old self focused on demonstrating competence through task completion. Your 40-year-old self provides value through disaster prevention and strategic guidance. Companies pay more for preventing million-dollar mistakes than for executing routine tasks. Your experience becomes insurance against repeating expensive historical errors. The ability to say, "We tried that approach in 2015 and here's why it failed," becomes worth more than the ability to work overtime, implementing doomed strategies. Your experience becomes their education, your failures become their roadmap, and your hard-won insights become their competitive advantage. The relationship that taught you to recognize manipulation tactics becomes training material for younger colleagues dealing with difficult clients. The financial mistake that cost you thousands becomes advice that saves them exponentially more. Your career detour that seemed like wasted time becomes the case study that helps them avoid similar professional dead ends. The transformation happens when you recognize that every mistake you made, every wrong turn you took, and every lesson you learned the hard way has created intellectual property that increases in value over time. Your 40s grant you the perspective to see that your seemingly random collection of experiences has created a unique expertise portfolio that can't be replicated through formal education or theoretical training. Your wisdom operates on compound interest principles, where early investments in learning from mistakes pay exponentially larger dividends decades later. The communication skills you developed handling difficult personalities become leadership expertise. The financial literacy you acquired through budget disasters becomes strategic planning ability. The emotional intelligence you gained through relationship failures becomes team management capability. Each area of hard-won knowledge supports and amplifies the others, creating expertise that's worth more than the sum of its parts. This accumulated wisdom doesn't just make you better at your job, it makes you better at reading people, situations, and the subtle patterns that others miss completely. Emotional intelligence advantage, vampire detection skills. This sophisticated pattern recognition transforms into your most practical superpower. Advanced emotional intelligence that functions like having radar for human behavior. Your 40s develop emotional radar that would make air traffic controllers jealous, because decades of interpersonal experience have taught you to recognize the warning signs that predict emotional exhaustion. The person who interrupts constantly, dominates conversations, or makes everything about themselves triggers your early warning system before they've finished their second sentence. This isn't psychic ability, it's statistical analysis based on extensive data collection about human behavior and its predictable outcomes. Research shows that emotional intelligence develops significantly with age, enabling individuals to navigate complex social dynamics more effectively. Your 40-year-old brain has cataloged thousands of interpersonal interactions and identified the patterns that drain your energy versus those that restore it. That colleague who starts every conversation with personal drama gets filtered out automatically. The acquaintance who turns every discussion into complaints about their life registers as an energy drain before they finish their opening sentence. Your internal alarm system recognizes these patterns instantly because you've experienced enough relationship dynamics to understand what actually threatens your peace. The comedy reaches peak absurdity when you realize you've experienced enough workplace politics to identify toxic patterns, enough manipulation tactics to recognize them within minutes, and enough life transitions to understand which emotional invitations deserve your attendance. Your 30-year-old self would have spent hours analyzing why that conversation felt so draining. Your 40-year-old self recognizes the manipulation techniques quickly and either redirects the conversation or removes themselves from the situation entirely. You've seen this movie too many times to pretend the ending will be different. Your emotional regulation skills surpass younger adults because you've had more practice managing disappointment, processing grief, and navigating complexity without losing your center. Research on emotional regulation improvements in middle age shows that individuals develop greater capacity to process difficult emotions without being overwhelmed by them. While 25-year-olds are still learning that not every emotional crisis requires immediate action, you've developed the wisdom to distinguish between temporary emotional weather and permanent climate change. The setback that would have devastated your younger self gets processed efficiently because you've learned that most disasters aren't actually disasters. They're just Tuesday afternoons with more drama than usual. Emotional intelligence isn't about feeling less. It's about responding better, like having emotional airbags that deploy automatically when situations become dangerous. Your 40s grant you the ability to feel the full spectrum of human emotion without being controlled by those feelings. The anger that would have triggered explosive responses in your 30s gets channeled into strategic decision-making. The sadness that would have paralyzed your younger self gets processed and integrated without derailing your entire week. The strategic advantage becomes crystal clear when you recognize chronic complainers who want audiences, not solutions. Your friend, who calls every Sunday to complain about the same job problems they refuse to address, reveals themselves as someone seeking validation rather than resolution. You learn to offer brief sympathy and then redirect toward actionable solutions, or politely excuse yourself when they reject helpful suggestions. This isn't coldness. It's emotional efficiency that protects your mental resources for relationships that actually function. Your 40s grant you emotional efficiency that creates less drama and more discernment, like upgrading your emotional operating system from a basic version to premium software. The interpersonal conflicts that would have consumed days of mental energy in your 30s get resolved quickly because you've learned which battles are worth fighting and which are worth avoiding entirely. Your emotional processing power gets allocated strategically toward relationships and situations that actually matter, rather than getting wasted on trivial interpersonal friction. The revolutionary understanding emerges that not every emotional invitation requires your attendance because you can decline other people's chaos. Your younger self felt obligated to participate in every family drama, workplace conflict, and friend group crisis because declining felt selfish. Your 40-year-old self recognizes that other people's emotional emergencies don't automatically become your emotional emergencies. You can offer support without getting pulled into the vortex of someone else's unresolved psychological issues. Advanced emotional intelligence eliminates unnecessary interpersonal stress and creates more authentic, supportive relationships. When you stop tolerating energy drains and emotional manipulators, you create space for people who contribute positively to your life. The relationships that remain after your emotional intelligence upgrade become more genuine because they're based on mutual respect rather than one-sided emotional labor. Quality people appreciate your boundaries because they understand that healthy relationships require emotional reciprocity. Your 40s teach you that boundaries aren't walls. They're gates with discerning gatekeepers who attract emotional maturity and deflect manipulation with equal skill. Walls block everything indiscriminately, creating isolation and limiting positive connections. Gates allow the right people and energy through while filtering out toxic dynamics. Your emotional gatekeeping system becomes increasingly sophisticated, recognizing the difference between people who enhance your life and people who complicate it unnecessarily. The transformation happens when you realize that emotional intelligence isn't about managing other people's emotions. It's about managing your own responses to other people's emotions. Your 40s grant you the wisdom to understand that you can't control how others feel or behave, but you can control how you respond to their feelings and behavior. This shift from external control to internal control creates emotional freedom that allows you to engage with people authentically without being responsible for their emotional reactions. This emotional mastery becomes the foundation for something even more powerful: the ability to see how all these separate life skills start working together as parts of one integrated system. Integration mastery, when everything finally makes sense. This orchestration reveals the practical payoff of integration mastery, where your family time, health investments and work performance start functioning as mutually supporting systems rather than competing demands. Your 40s transform scattered life management into coordinated life architecture, where strategic choices serve multiple priorities simultaneously. The exhausting juggling act of your 30s becomes the coordinated symphony of your 40s, like finally conducting your own life instead of playing individual instruments badly while other musicians play completely different songs. You stop compartmentalizing your life into competing priorities and start orchestrating them into mutually supporting systems. Your 30-year-old self treated work, family, health, and personal time like separate departments that competed for limited resources. Your 40-year-old self recognizes that these areas can enhance each other when properly integrated, rather than constantly fighting for your attention and energy. Research on midlife interventions shows that integrated approaches to life management produce better outcomes across multiple domains than addressing individual areas in isolation. The comedy reaches peak absurdity when you realize you spent decades trying to balance everything, when the secret was actually making everything work together. Balance suggests a constant struggle to keep opposing forces from toppling each other, like standing on a tightrope while juggling flaming torches. Integration means creating systems where success in one area supports success in others, eliminating the exhausting tension between competing priorities. You stop trying to balance work and family and start creating work that supports your family values. Picture this strategic decision: choosing a job that pays slightly less but offers flexible hours for family time and gym access. One decision serving multiple life priorities simultaneously, instead of forcing you to choose between financial security, family relationships, and personal health. Your 30-year-old self would have optimized for maximum salary while hoping to figure out work-life balance later. Your 40-year-old self optimizes for life integration, where professional choices support personal values rather than undermining them. The interconnected nature of your life systems becomes crystal clear when you recognize how your health supports your career performance, your career funds your relationship investments, and your relationships provide the meaning that motivates your health choices. Poor health creates career limitations through reduced energy and cognitive function. Financial stress from career problems creates relationship tension. Relationship problems create emotional stress that affects health choices. Your 40s teach you that optimizing individual areas while ignoring their connections creates problems that compound across your entire life system. Integration mastery means making choices that serve multiple life areas at once, like finding the perfect intersection of all your values rather than constantly choosing between them. The morning workout that improves your health also provides stress relief that enhances your work performance and emotional availability for your family. The career change that reduces your salary but increases your schedule flexibility allows for better health choices and more meaningful relationships. These integrated choices create positive momentum across multiple life areas simultaneously. Instead of trading off different life areas against each other, you create choices that strengthen your entire system. Your 30-year-old self operated from scarcity thinking, where success in one area required sacrifice in another. Your 40-year-old self operates from abundance thinking, where strategic choices can improve multiple areas simultaneously. The decision to work from home saves commuting time that gets allocated to exercise and family dinner. The choice to prioritize sleep improves work performance and relationship patience. Integration mastery makes every major decision easier because you know your optimization criteria. You're not just making choices, you're architecting a life where all the pieces fit together coherently. Should you take the promotion that requires extensive travel? Your integrated decision-making process evaluates how this choice affects your health, relationships, and personal growth, not just your career advancement. The decision becomes obvious when you understand how it impacts your entire life system rather than just one component. The revelation emerges that when everything works together, nothing feels like sacrifice, because coherence creates both efficiency and fulfillment. Your 30-year-old self experienced constant internal conflict between competing priorities. Your 40-year-old self experiences alignment where personal values, professional choices, and daily habits support each other. The time spent exercising doesn't feel stolen from work because it improves your work performance. The energy invested in relationships doesn't feel like career sacrifice because meaningful relationships provide the motivation for professional achievement. Your 40s represent the decade where scattered experiences finally organize into coherent wisdom. The career setback that taught you about resilience, the relationship failure that developed your emotional intelligence, and the health scare that motivated lifestyle changes stop being isolated incidents and start being integrated lessons that inform your current decision-making. Your life experiences become a comprehensive database that guides strategic choices rather than random memories that occasionally resurface during conversations. The beautiful integration happens when you realize that authentic living doesn't require choosing between different aspects of yourself. Your 30-year-old self might have felt pressure to be a different person at work than at home, to prioritize career advancement over personal relationships, or to sacrifice health for professional success. Your 40-year-old self creates a life where personal values align with professional choices, where health supports career performance, and where relationships enhance rather than complicate other life areas. This integration creates a life that feels authentic and sustainable rather than fragmented and exhausting. The scattered pieces of your earlier decades finally organize into a coherent whole that makes sense not just to you, but to anyone observing your life from the outside. When all these systems work together, you discover something remarkable about the accumulated power of reaching this decade. The accumulated power reveals itself in your ability to make decisions based on what actually matters rather than what you think should matter. Your 40s represent the decade when time scarcity finally teaches you that every choice carries opportunity cost, transforming scattered priorities into strategic focus on relationships, health, and work that align with your authentic values. The compound advantage of reaching 40 isn't just about having more experience, it's about finally having the wisdom to use that experience strategically instead of repeating familiar patterns with different people in different circumstances. Your mistakes become intellectual property, your boundaries become protective systems, and your authentic choices create a life that actually fits you, instead of impressing people whose opinions don't matter. Take a moment to consider what your own 40s have taught you about the difference between what you thought you wanted and what you actually need. The permission you've